wanted to make like a PSA about Israel. I have so many people that come to me and ask me what happened, and I wanted to show I'm not as strong as people think. You see the way that my hair looks. I'm a hot mess right now. But part of me does want to celebrate his life, but I do want to tell his story. I have heard rumors that, he killed himself or he was shot, which is not true. Israel overdosed. He wasn't like a druggie. He was about something. He just was experimenting, and, it was something new, and it happened. So I'm going to tell his story, what happened. On March the 11th, I knocked on my son's door in the morning. I had talked to him late the night before, and he didn't answer, but he was up really late, so I figured that he was sleeping. It's not abnormal, teenagers sleep all day. He had his door locked. So I was supposed to start work off of maternity leave the following week, and I was like, okay, I gotta go get my hair done before I go back to work. I am letting the grays grow in, but I needed like a cut. So I texted him and I said, I bought you some food. It's on the counter. When you wake up, if you don't want it, just put it in the fridge. And I left, went to get my hair done. I laughed and joked with my beautician about, how funny Israel is and, different things. And I texted him again. I bought him some towels. He still didn't answer. And so I finished running my errands about 2 o'clock is when I got home, and I knocked on his door and he didn't answer. And Dre said, I gave the baby a bath. I haven't heard him moving around. He hasn't came out from, even to go pee. So, and we only heard his music playing on his phone. So I really started knocking on his door, and he didn't answer. And I'm like, okay, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So I walk around to the back of the house, and I look in his window, and I see him there on the ground, like laying on the ground. His legs were propped up on a chair. And I told my mom, we have to break in Israel's room. So we broke into the room, and as soon as my mom kind of pushed past and said, Sarah, get out of here, call 911. And she immediately started to do CPR on him, her and Dre. And I tried to call 911. I was like so upset. I couldn't even dial the numbers. It was like I kept on dialing. It wasn't going through. I was like panicking. I was, couldn't even barely talk. And I got the ambulance on the phone. I go in the room, and, they're still trying to resuscitate him. Bile, throw up, everything coming out of his mouth, out of his nose, and they're still going. And they wanted to talk to my mom, and so I put her on the phone, and, I kind of started to help, but I couldn't even do it. Like, I was just frozen because I felt this cold hand in my hand, and I knew he was dead. We continued to do CPR until the ambulance arrived, and when they got there, they hooked him up. There was no vitals. They, tried to charge it once, but there was nothing to be done. He had been dead for a while. I don't know what time he died, but most likely he probably fell asleep and, asphyxiated. I don't have the final death certificate yet. So, living in California with his age, he had to have a full autopsy and a toxicology report. The police came, narcotics, the DEA, searched the house. We'll search his room and his car. They found just like some paraphernalia, so I'm pretty sure that it was an overdose. So I started asking questions after that to, friends and people that knew him. I found out that he actually overdosed 5 days before, that Friday before, at a grown woman's house where she lets the kids come over and do drugs at her house. He stopped breathing, and they put him on an ironing board, put him in his car, drove him to the hospital in his car. He stopped breathing. I think maybe his heart stopped. They said that, he died for 3 minutes. I don't know if that's exactly true, but they had to resuscitate him. And, the people that brought him there were supposedly, one of his friends, supposedly. And they just left him there. They didn't come tell me. They know where I live at. They didn't bother to, come to the house or anything. The one boy that was friends with him since he finally passed has not came to the house. The other woman, the grown woman, did. Not really out of care, though. But yeah, they told me that, he thought he was doing Percocets. That's what his buddy told him, but it was most likely fentanyl. I still don't have the toxicology reports to confirm that, but that's the rumors that I've gotten, that, he didn't know he was doing fentanyl, and that he took it, and it was just too much for his body to handle. So I share this story because looking at all of the events, I knew he was a little bit off the couple of days before he finally died, but, I trusted him because we were so close. Like, everybody that knows me and Israel knows that, we would joke all the time that we were more like brother and sister because, I was so young when I had him, and we grew up together, and he was my best friend. Like, he told me almost everything, and I don't think he told me that because he knew I was going to be so disappointed in him. I know that's why he didn't tell me. But I think maybe, he tried it a couple of times, and I think he got, addicted right away. I think that he was withdrawing a couple of days, and, he did it again, and he died. Israel did make his choice to do the drugs, so, most of the culpability is on him. But, those that knew that he was doing hardcore drugs, I knew, obviously, he smoked a little weed. We live in California. He has a medical marijuana card. That, I wasn't, complacent in it, but, he's an adult, so what can I do? And, it's weed. But I was always heavily against the hard stuff. I don't play with that because I've seen too many people go down the wrong path with that. And I wanted to tell people because, I want you to have the conversations with your kids that not everyone is your friend, because this boy gave him the drugs knowing what it was. And, he had no care for him. And Israel was doing everything for this boy, taking him to work. He got him back in school, loaning him money. He was just a little dirty. And here Israel is taking him under his wing, trying to help the kid out. And he was really just trying to, take advantage of my son because he was a hard worker. He's good looking. He had a pretty girlfriend. He had his own car. He's a mama's boy, so I do everything for him. He still did for himself. He paid his own bills and, his own car insurance. He bought that car for himself, and he was always doing work on it, and he paid his phone bill, and he had a couple of credit cards. He paid those on time every month. The boy had a 750 credit score. Like, I was so proud of him. He was in school, but then after the first semester, he said, Mom, this isn't for me, not yet. I am going to enlist in the military. So he had been talking to the recruiters, and he had decided on the Navy. He hadn't finalized any of the paperwork yet, but that was the plan. So he had a life ahead of him. I've talked to his job. He worked with seniors. He was very popular. He was the kid that even the cranky old people would like. The outpouring of love from everyone has been amazing. And honestly, you all are the only reasons I'm able to even like get through. This boy was the light of my life. And honestly, if Sagan wasn't here, I don't know what I would do, because I do cry every day. I try to put on a happy face and talk to people, but in private, there's a lot of tears. But I do try to be strong, because I know that that's what he would want. He doesn't want me to be sad. He wants me to move forward and, honor his memory. So we are going to have a big, huge celebration of life back home once the coronavirus ends. But until then, I'm just kind of stuck here, just, trying to make sense of this. But Israel had a good life, though. He was such a cool kid. He used to go to like concerts all the time. Even like as a freshman in high school, he was like so into like going to concerts. He would pay for the tickets. He would make it happen. And he was actually supposed to go the other day to what's that concert? What's that guy's called? The concert was canceled, of course, but I thought the phone died. Like Rowdy Rich, I think. I can't remember. But him and his girlfriend were going to go. The kid would snowboard. Everybody knows he played hockey. He did a lot of cool shit. He got accepted to an engineering camp at UC Irvine, where he built a computer, or actually a gaming system that monitored your vitals. He was like in 5th grade, I think, when he built his first computer. He was super smart. Like, literally, I would ask him for advice sometimes, because he just was so wise. He just knew so many things. And, he'd go to the gun range with one of his military buddies' dads. They really took him under his wing. He's traveled. He's really seen some cool shit. And, like, I was just so proud of him, because he wasn't afraid to, like, try new things. And, he would put himself out there. And he was a good friend. He always stood up for the underdog, and I don't know if I'll ever be the same. I love Israel. And I just want to celebrate his life again, because he had a great one. But again, I just wanted to put this out here for him, so no one has to go through the same thing. Please talk to your kids about drugs. I talk to him about drugs all the time. This was not the way that I thought he would have went. Like, never in a million years. I would have thought, he would have mouthed off to the police and got shot, like the rumor said, before this. Like, to be honest, he was so mouthy. He was my spoiled little brat, but I loved him to death, man. He was a good brother. He was a good son. He was a good grandson, a good nephew. He was a good man. And I think that it was his time because he just probably learned everything he needed to learn in this world, and, he was called. I truly have to believe that, because he was a special kid. So thank you, everyone, for the donations, and thank you even more for the prayers and love. Be safe out here with the coronavirus. Light and love.